Valmiki Ramayana, Bala Kanda, Book 1, Sarga 36, Canto 36, Chapter 36. Legend of Uma and her curse. Shiva, hold on, let me stop this. Shiva, on his marriage with Uma, is in the conjugal bliss for a long period due to his yogic powers. Fearing the result of that prolonged activity, all gods pray for the cessation of it, because none in any world can carry that offspring. Shiva, accepting that request, asked them where to discharge the sperm that has already stirred up. Gods, gods indicate the earth as the taker. Shiva accordingly inundates the earth with his fluid. Then the fire god is dispatched to consolidate that into a reed forest called Saharavana. Goddess Uma, ireful at the prevention of begetting a son, now curses gods and earth to be childless. When the sage Vishwamitra has finished narration of the legend, i.e., history, of the daughters of Himavanta, both the brave ones, namely Raghava and Lakshmana, in their turn have extolled that legend, i.e., history, and spoke to that eminent sage. This admirable discourse given by you about Ganga is exhaustive in righteousness, O Brahman, and it will be apt of you to tell empathically about the divine and earthly legend, i.e., history, of the elder daughter of Himavanta, namely Ganga, for you are aware to expatiate upon it. By which reason that world purifier Ganga influxes into three paths, O virtue knower, and connected with which deeds of merit this triple courser Ganga is renowned as the best one among all the rivers in three worlds. Thus Rama and Lakshmana have asked the sage Vishwamitra. When Kakutstas have inquired that way, the ascetically wealthy sage Vishwamitra has narrated all the legend, i.e., history, of Ganga in its entirety, staying among the sages. On his getting married to Uma, O Rama, the sublime ascetic and bluish-throated god Shiva as his throat became blue when he consumed poison during the churning of Milky Ocean. At one time, with a predilection towards her, he has started love-making with her. While that sublime, sagacious, and blue throated, blue throat, God Shiva is in love-making, O enemy scorcher. Rama, 100 divine years have elapsed. Even then, he had no son in her, namely goddess Uma. The 100 divine years are said to be 36,000 mortal years, and this goes with the calculation of Yuga, Indian, i.e., Vedic era. Calculation where 2000 of four yugas, Krita, Treta, Dvapara, Kali yugas, are one Brahmadina, Brahma's day, etc. All the gods headed by Brahma have then started to ponder, is there anybody who can inevitably sustain that being which emerges from this goddess Uma after this prolonged yogic act of copulation with Shiva? This being the worry of all gods, they have prepared for action. All the gods, on approaching and paying their deference to Shiva, spoke this to him: O God of gods, O one who is interested in the welfare of these worlds, O great God, considering the supplication of all gods, it will be apt of you to bestow grace. This prolonged act of copulation. Let me see how this is properly pronounced. Uh, yeah. I won't be able. Anyway, I keep going. I guess it's right. I'm pronouncing it right. Copulation. Copulation. Anyway. Copulation is an act of yoga called Mahamaituna. The Shaktite tantrics who practice Panchamakara, Madhya, Mamsa, Matsya, Mudra, Maituna, liquor, mutton, fish, postures, loosely calisthenics, and copulation. Make use of these things. In these practices, the yogis use mudras, posture, calisthenics, at the time of copulation, even so that there will be no ejaculation for a longer period. This is the 5-element theory. Worlds cannot capably bear your offspring, born out of your effulgence, O Supreme God. Hence you may practice yogic asceticism along with your consort goddess Uma, in unison with Vedic postulates of yoga, rather than progeniture. And desiring the welfare of the three worlds, you may please retain your refulgent seed within your own radiance, thus protect this universe, since it will not be apt of you to render it devoid of worlds, with the efflux of the unimaginable, unmanageable potence of yours. So said gods to Shiva. The word Tejas also means semen or offspring, besides resplendence. Teja parakrame prane varchas archishi retasi ratnamala. Thus, the prospective offspring through ejaculation is the problem here. Because Kumara or Skanda takes birth will with all the irrepressible effulgence of Shiva plus his own. On listening the words of gods, that rarefied God of universe, namely Shiva, said, "So be it," and further spoke this to all of the gods indeed. I wish to bear my sperm in my virility and Uma in hers. Let the immortals and mortals as well derive a perfect bliss. But that part which has already stirred up from its place is irrestrainable. As such, O gods of eminence, you tell me who can contain that part of the unexcelled potence. So said Shiva to gods. Thus spoken by Shiva, then the gods in reply spoke to him, whose banner is divine bull, namely Shiva. That part of the potence which has already stirred up the earth indeed endures that now. Thus said by the gods, that yogi of par excellence and the god of gods Shiva discharge his refulgent semen, with which the earth together with its mountains and forests is overspread. Thereby the gods in their turn said even to fire god, "You enter the great potence of Rudra along with wind god, lest that potence may annihilate the earth and earthlings, because you can consume anything that comes in touch with you." And when fire god invaded that great potence of Shiva, it has emerged as white mountain. Also, thus it has become as a divine forest of reeds, equaling the sun and fire in its resplendence, wherefrom the highly brilliant Kumara has emerged. Because Kumara or Skanda took birth through fire god from the great potence of Shiva, he is called the one born out of fire. Because Kartikeya stars, because Kritika stars have suckled him, he is also called as Kartikeya. Take birth, the birth and legend of Kartikeya is detailed in the next chapter relating to Ganga. Later on, the gods, together with the assemblages of sages, are well pleased at heart, as it has happened according to their prayer. Thereby they fulsomely adored Shiva and even Uma. O Rama, but the daughter of Himalayan mountain, namely Uma, while irefully saying this to the divinities, she cursed them all with her eyes reddened in anger. Wherefore I, who am desirous of a son, had been prevented from the intimacy with my husband. Therefore you shall be infected, infecund. No idea. You shall be unable to beget progeny through your own wives. And from now onwards, from now onwards, your wives shall remain infertile. And on saying this way to all of the gods, she also gave a curse to the earth. Thus, thus these celestials do not directly breed, they take the agency of humans or other mortals to bring forth their offspring, as in the case of the monkey race and Menaka, and as in the case of Vishwamitra giving birth to Shakuntala, who in her turn gave birth to Bharata, and so on. O earth, your appearance shall be bizarre, and you will be a wife to many. And O verily base-minded earth, rendered sully by my anger, you shall have no gratification caused by the children, as you are bigoted against my son. Comment. The sin, or someone's comment. The sin of earth to bear the curse of Uma Devi is to accept the semen of Shiva on her surface. The appearance of earth will not be in one kind or quality, for it has lands and oceans, deserts and forests, volcanoes and mountains, ice and humidity, etc. Further, the earth is the official wife to numerous kings. The earth is also cursed to not to have the delight of her children. The earth has Naraka, the demon, and Sita as her children. But these two are not begotten through any seminal contact by earth. And further, for earth it is as good as not having these two as her children, for such is the plight of these two so-called children of earth on earth. After many tumults in her life, even Sita asks her mother on earth, i.e., Mother Earth herself, to take her back into her womb. That god of gods, Shiva, becoming ill at ease to look at all the distressed gods, equally feeling small to convince his consort Uma, he has started to journey towards the western quarter, which is ruled by rain god. On going to the northern side of Himalayan mountains, that god of gods Shiva settled down in ascesis, ascesis, along with his consort Uma, on the peak of a mountain emerged from Himalayas. Here some say the mountain on which Shiva settled for ascesis as Himavatprabhava, giving it a full name like Mount Kailash or Kanchanjunga, etc. If any such mountain peak is named and available in mythologies, no mythologies available in histories or in Himalayas. This needs a revision for whatever the comment means. This is the legend, i.e. history, of Mountain's daughter, namely Goddess Uma, vividly narrated to you, O Rama, and now listen from me along with Lakshmana, about the emergence of Ganga. Thus ends the 36th chapter, 36th Sarga. The story of Uma, Goddess Uma, and her curse. This is the chapter that our Ralph Griffith did not translate because he thought it's offensive for our modern tastes taste of 1800s British islands. So he didn't translate this particular chapter, Sarga 36, because it was too offensive to the British people because of prolonged copulation of Shiva and Goddess Uma, Lord Shiva and Goddess Uma. Shiva is considered Mahadev. British name, Judeo-Christian name, David, is coming from Sanskrit, Deva, which means a demigod. And Shiva is called Mahadeva, the highest of all demigods. Okay? Devas are not gods, they are demigods. They are not many gods. There is only one God, Krishna, Rama. But they are 33 million demigods. 33, very special number in Freemason secret societies. 33 degrees, 33 million demigods. So, word Mahadeva is origin of bunch of words actually. So David, David, this is again the new modern mispronunciation of Sanskrit Deva, which means demigods. And Mahadeva also is mispronounced to Arabic Muhammad, Mahadeva. Allah is Shiva, and Kali is Caliphate. And Arabic word name Muhammad is coming from Sanskrit Mahadev, which means the god of all demigods, Lord Shiva, Allah, Elohim, Shiva and Kali, Allah and Caliphate. So again, this chapter is very offensive to the British people of 1800s. So that's why our Ralph Griffith didn't translate it. because it talks about how Shiva and Uma were engaged in conjugal love, in conjugal bliss for a long period of time via the practice of Tantra and Yoga. They were able to remain in copulation position for long periods of time without ejaculation. And um, as we talked earlier or before, when we are talking about demigods, specifically demigods like Shiva and Durga or Kali or Uma or Parvati, we're talking about multidimensional and higher dimensional living entities, superheroes, superhuman beings whose powers are completely unimaginable to us. And for them, to us, may seem that their copulation was very prolonged because again, uh, time is relative, and the way demigods experience time is much different the way we experience time. To them, to Shiva and Uma, perhaps the whole thing lasted 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But to us, actually specifically to demigods, so what to speak to us earthlings who are even smaller than demigods, to demigods themselves, the whole act seemed a long, long time. And and they were concerned that the the product of this conjugal union between Shiva and Uma could create problems in the universe, because nothing that's in the universe could sustain, could support this kind of progeny. So they were praying to Shiva to please stop doing this, and whatever has taken place, to just leave it alone, to be as is, to do it no more, because the whole world, I guess, was feeling perturbed when Shiva and Uma were copulating. So, so what happened is that Shiva said, "All right, I will not discharge my semen, but there is something that has already been discharged. What shall we do with that?" And then demigod said that whichever is present, whichever is not capable of being retained, that should be thrown down to the earth. So even for the demigods, the earth, the Bhumandala, is like a dumping ground, just like demons are dumping so much trash into Ganges, into holy rivers all around the world, and polluting everything, destroying everything. So in the same way, also demigods use Bhumandala as a dumping ground for Shiva's fluids. So so Shiva said, "All right, I'm gonna discharge whatever sperm has been churned up, created, and is not capable of being retained by me or Uma, should be discharged onto the earth. And from that thing, a great forest was created called Saharavana, great forest of reed forest. Saharavana, Sarvana, Sharvana, Harvana. Anyway, that's pretty clear, pretty obvious. We're talking about the Sahara region of the planet Earth. This is the Sahara region. So from Casablanca, this is the westernmost part of Sahara. Casablanca in Morocco. I think it's Morocco. Casablanca means white house. White house. So from Casablanca in Morocco, all across through Egypt, through Jerusalem, through the Middle East, through Iraq, and through Iran, through Arabia, Iraq and Iran, all the way through Pakistan, i.e. India, to Mount Kailash. Kailash is also considered a white house. If you look at the mountain itself, the mountain of Lord Shiva, it is always covered with snow and looks like a house, a great house, Casa Grande, Kiva, Shiva. That's also a white house. And as far as I am understanding, both Casablanca in Morocco and Kailash in India and Himalayas are on the same latitude. On the same latitude. 30, I think it's 33rd degree. 33rd degree latitude. Again, this famous number, 33 degrees. And we all know that the Red Sea where Moses crossed with the Semites, with the race of Semites, actually it was originally the Reed Sea, the Sea of Reeds. And then later on, because of some excretion, I guess from reeds maybe or something, it turned into red color, and then that's why now it's called the Red Sea. But it used to be Reed Sea. I think also according to Hebrew translation of that sea is Reed Sea, according to Old Testament Torah. Reed Sea. In other words, the whole of Sahara, Mesopotamia, all the way to Kailash is famous for reeds. Is famous for reeds. Egypt, famous, all of it. And Sahara, Vana, Sahara. Also, Sahara in Sanskrit means, Sa means with, Hara means Har. Har and Hara, with Lord Shiva and Kali. Sahara, Har Har Mahadev, Har Har Mahadev, Muhammad, Har Har Mahadev, Mahadevad, David. So, all this is to illustrate the size of unimaginable size of Shiva and Uma, multidimensional, hard-dimensional living entities, who were engaged in conjugal love for procreation of the universe, and their act of conjugal love was so powerful that demigods were afraid that thing will destroy the whole universe, and that's why they prayed to them to stop with that activity. So they agreed to. Uma was not too happy about it, because now she was not able to get a son that she wanted, and Shiva is like, whatever, whatever. I have no problem. I'm always thinking about the welfare of the universe. That I don't want to be torturing with my tejas, with my yogic powers the whole universe. So Shiva said, "All right, whatever is not produced, I will retain, and whatever has been already produced has to go somewhere." And it was decided to go to the Bhumandala, Earth. So, so this is in a nutshell about this chapter of Ramayana. That's to me very interesting. There is nothing immortal. I don't know where did Ralph Griffith got his idea that's immoral. This chapter. No, it just talks about things that are so beyond our morality and the comprehension that the only thing you can grasp is by your by your spiritual side. You need to open up your pineal gland, decalcify your pineal gland, and try to understand these divine celestial pastimes of God's that are so beautiful and so amazing and so awesome that there is nothing to be ashamed of, but to just be grateful for everything and just be like Shiva, be like greatest yogi, ascetic, always meditating on Krishna, Christos, Christ. Krishna, Shiva is the greatest devotee of Krishna. He is completely renounced of everything material. From any particular material facility, he has no need whatsoever. He just sits down and listens and learns from Krishna. That's why we have this Hebrew word yeshiva. Yeshiva means to sit down and listen and learn. Learn from the source. And that source is God, Govinda, Krishna, Christos, Christ. So yeah, this is a very beautiful chapter of so much information and so many things to talk about. So many things to talk about. So I will just stop here and we can continue the next chapter tomorrow. Okay. Ciao.